27-17 was the final score in week 10. You know, the Jaguars, they won the turnover battle in that game. They stole the initial possession with an onside kick recovery by Riley Patterson, but still it was just a game where Riley Patterson came up short with the field goals. The Jaguars could not find a way to put the ball in the end zone early with the amount of momentum that they had. Ultimately, the better team won that day because the Chiefs were able to capitalize where the Jaguars wouldn't. But we're in the playoffs now. Every week, each team goes into it 0-0. It's a win-or-go-home matchup. And, hey, I know one massive Chiefs fan right now. I brought him on, talk about the Chiefs. Joe, what's going on, man?
What's up, brother?
Obviously, we have to start with the man you refer to as a demigod. He's the best quarterback in the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes has been on fire throughout certain parts of the season without Tyreek Hill. Has there really been any slowdown with the way the Chiefs have run their offense minus Tyreek Hill?
They're yes and no. So when you look at the straight numbers, obviously not. 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So it's actually his second best season of the 5 as a starting quarterback. But I will say, as a Chiefs fan, watching every snap, that over-the-top play is gone from the offense.
Okay.
It's not a dink and dunk, but it is a calculated, run your routes, get what you're going to get down. But when the play breaks down, that, run around, F it, Tyreek is down there somewhere,
Yep.
Famous quote, that is gone from the offense. And MVS was supposed to bring that. He has not. But so it's just been more of a calculated attack. So I would say, yes, that's gone. But I think he's a better quarterback because of the loss of Tyreek Hill.
Mecole Hardman has been ruled out for the game. Obviously, outside of Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end in recent history in the NFL. How big is that? How big of an impact is that going to be on this Chiefs offense without Mecole Hardman?
It's tough to say, because what I would say is almost none, because week 5 was the last time he played. However, if you look back to 18, 19, 20, 21, obviously Hill and Kelce, but Hardman has made more big plays in the playoffs outside of those two than anybody. And so I just think that where we might see something is the inexperience factor of the other guys playing in this atmosphere in Arrowhead, playoff game. But in terms of how the offense is going to run, honestly, I would say close to nothing, just because he hasn't played in so long. I think he was a hopeful for them to have back. And if he could have been back, maybe some new facets of the offense would have opened up. But outside of that, I would say it's probably minimal outside of the experience factor.
Got you. Now, Creed Humphrey has kind of been one of the surprises of the draft in recent history. He immediately came into the league and immediately became one of the best centers in the National Football League. How is the rest of that offensive line looking for the Chiefs?
Honestly, I would say he is the best center. I think our tight end, his last name carries a certain other center to heights that maybe he doesn't deserve to be. Not to say that he's not a good center, but you get what I'm saying.
100%.
And a certain other podcast might make him excel his stature. But outside of Humphrey, to honestly and obviously being biased, I think he's the best center in the NFL and has been since the day he entered the NFL. Outside of him, Thuney and Trey Smith, I think, are probably your best, guard combo in the NFL. Thuney, obviously, we know from years New England, and he's just continued that in Kansas City. And then Trey Smith, had he not had some, weird outlier health issues when he was at Tennessee, he's a first-round pick, and the Chiefs were able to pluck him in the 6th round. Now the worry is your 2 tackles, Wiley and Brown, Orlando Brown Jr. They've actually, outside of all the Chiefs' success, and it's hard to imagine when a team's 14-3, but they lead the leagues. They're 1-2 in quarterback pressures allowed.
Really?
Yes, and so they are a factor. Now there's a two sides to that because we know how much Mahomes is always looking to throw. Even when he does run sometimes, but even when a lane's wide open,
Mm-hmm.
he still throws. So sometimes those stats can be skewed. But Wiley is what he is at the right tackle. But Brown has been a huge disappointment this year as a left tackle in a contract year, playing on the franchise tag. So I would say our middle, your solid middle three. I don't expect much getting through there. However, Josh Allen and the boys, they might put a scare, and I'm sure Andy Reid's probably got a wrinkle or two in the package. Maybe McKinnon or if Edwards-Helaire comes back to play, staying back, or Blake Bell maybe even at the tight end spot to be an extra blocker, because those two have struggled on the edge this year.
100%. I like that you brought up that Andy Reid, Doug Pederson connection, and I was doing a little bit of digging in there. It's the way how far back they go is honestly incredible. It goes back to Doug being a quarterback. And it's just incredible how much history these two guys have together. It's one of those, I might have taught you everything you know, but I haven't taught you everything I know moments. Who
Right.
can thrown the mentor here? Now, I want to talk about Isaiah Pacheco for a second. The last meeting he had with the Jaguars, he averaged over 5 yards a carry. Obviously, we're expecting terrible weather in Kansas City this Saturday. How big of a dose do you think the Chiefs are going to give Isaiah Pacheco?
So common sense would tell you they're just going to run you down the road, but that's not Andy Reid's style. And we have had a tendency to get away from the run in all three. There are only 3 losses this year, but in all 3, that was the case. And in usual Chiefs fashion, in the last 10 years under Andy Reid, everything before him is a wash.
Mm-hmm.
But they've had the lead in all 3 games, and I imagine it's hard to not fall in love when you got 15 back there playing quarterback.
Yep.
To just continue to throw the ball. And so we've gotten away from it, and I think you'll probably get more of him as the game goes on if the Chiefs have a lead. If we have a repeat of what we had the last time they played, you're going to see a lot more of him because it's play football, and I think Andy Reid is experienced enough, and Bieniemy as well, to know this is how we grind out the clock. However, I think in the early going, I wouldn't trust much in him, and then obviously, in probably, again, I'm biased, but only in a Chiefs fashion, coming into the season, RB3 just won Offensive Player of the Month.
Yes.
Garrett McKinnon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he's going to be the hot hand early, but obviously not in a running game, because we all know he didn't win Offensive Player of the Month by running the football. He won it by catching passes. So I think maybe the short screen game, the short pass game early on is going to be the go. If they can build a lead, maybe Pacheco is more of a factor. But to say how big of a factor, I think that's a hard thing to go with, just because we all know Andy Reid is, and same with Pederson, probably could learn from Reid. They don't love running the ball much. They want to toss it, and they want to score some points. And before we move on to the next question, I can't tell you how much I hate that Pacheco wears number 10.
Would you retire it if you could? There's a right answer to this. There is.
There is. I mean, 6 years, 6 All-Pro, 6 first-team All-Pros. It's hard to say no, but when he's still playing, it's also hard. But I mean, we've seen plenty of franchises be like, that number's on ice.
Yeah.
And he caught the pass of the biggest play in franchise history, but we won't.
All right, I want to flip sides here. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Frank Clark, Chris Jones. It's a great duo that they have on the defensive line. They go out, they add Karlaftis in the first round. How big of an addition has Karlaftis been for the Chiefs on that pass rush?
He's been big in the last 6 to 7 weeks, but I would say the biggest addition has been Carlos Dunlap.
Okay.
just that veteran presence. He's not as good every down as he once was, with the Bengals and stuff. But when it seems to be, you go back to the Bengals game, not Bengals, sorry, the Broncos game, the first one, when they were struggling to put him away, and he makes that incredible tackle on 4th and 1. I think he's as good on a single play as he ever when he knows what the moment means. But also, I think he has taught the rest of that defensive line, to include Chris Jones, who already had 3 All-Pros in his pocket before coming into the year. I think he's been able to teach them what sustained excellence is. But Curl, he's been great over the last 6 to 7 weeks, but I think the biggest game changer is Dunlap. And I think that because when you get to playoff football, because even if you look at Frank Clark, he signed to a huge, or he restructured recently, but he was signed to this incredible deal. The only reason he's still in Kansas City, because if you look at his sack totals with his $28 million a year deal, is like Frank Clark is like 5, 7, and 5. But when we flip over to the postseason, all of a sudden he's the closer.
Yeah.
When he's the one that sacked Tannehill to send him to the Super Bowl. He's the one that sacked Garoppolo to win the Super Bowl. That plays dividends. So I think he's in good running there. But I think Dunlap is the biggest difference on the defensive line this year to any other Chiefs D line in this last 4 to 5 year run.
Gotcha. Now, they talk about the pass rush helping the secondary a lot, yet the Chiefs have allowed the most passing touchdowns with 33 this year. Is there someone that the Jaguars and Doug Pederson can really kind of just circle on the big whiteboard and say, we're going to bully this guy until he gives up 14 points for us?
I would say yes and no. McDuffie has, by his grades, like, if you look at Pro Football Focus and all that, how much stock anyone puts into that is, kind of buyer's choice. But he's actually been up there with like Sauce Gardner, in terms of rookie cornerbacks and just cornerbacks overall. But he has been beaten. He's been beaten a couple of times. Joshua Williams, I guess if you held the gun to my head and asked an answer for that question, he would be the guy. But at the same time, he's also the guy, in week 3 had that 98-yard interception off Herbert,
Gotcha.
So when I view him, he's a small school guy. So I feel like he's kind of got that chip on his shoulder where he plays with that, I'm going to jump the gun, I'm going to jump the route kind of thing. And at times, like when he got Herbert, and won that game, it's be all end all. And then we've also seen times where he's, jumped a route and, Jamar Chase is running 80 yards down the field. So I would say him, but I don't think they have a specific guy. But I also, as one of the biggest Chiefs fans you'll ever meet, they're also not the strongest secondary, and I don't think it's as much on our corners right now as it is the loss of the Honey Badger with the replacement of Justin Reed, because that I think the Chiefs saw that as a 1-for-1. And it's definitely has not been a 1-for-1.
I kind of want to talk about the Jaguars a little bit. I've seen a lot of it on Twitter. It kind of got overshadowed by the Trevor Lawrence comment talking about Arrowhead and the volume. But Andre Cisco, that was originally the bulletin board material for the Chiefs fans to get excited about this game. The massive hit on Juju, the big hit on McCole Hardman. What is your take on the Andre Cisco hits and him returning to Arrowhead this season?
Well, I think he'll get what anyone gets when they go back to that situation. I didn't see, even as a Chiefs fan, I didn't see either, me and you were texting that first game. There was nothing crazy out of the ordinary. They didn't throw him out of the game. I know he got fined afterwards. I don't think we'll see I don't think the fans they'll probably give him the booze, but I don't think we're going to get as much on that from the fan perspective, what I think what we'll probably see is Lawrence is the bigger star,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't see anything wrong in what he said, but just kind of saying the world's already established loudest stadium in the world, not imagining that they're going to be much louder than Duval was on Saturday or Sunday. I got a feeling that they're going to be they're going to be loud on purpose. What I think what we might see though, towards you guys is from the officials
Mm-hmm.
at him and making sure that he doesn't repeat some of those hits because,
Mm-hmm.
like we said, he wasn't. They picked up the flag.
Yep.
That they originally threw when he hit Juju, and they picked up the flag, and then no penalty in the game, wasn't ejected, nothing. He kept it playing,
Yep.
but was fined afterwards. So I think that's one of those things that we probably will see is maybe how do the officials view how he comes across the middle during this game.
Absolutely. He might just decleat Travis Kelce the way Jalen Ramsey decleated Rob Gronkowski in the 2017 AFC Championship game. Just throwing that out there. I'm not wishing ill will on anybody, but I want to start to wrap. Go ahead.
As long as they get up, I'm cool with it. Juju looked like he was dead out there that day, though.
Oh my goodness. He had the Tua hands going.
Exactly.
Now, one of my final two questions. If the Chiefs win this game, what will be the biggest reason for them winning?
Mahomes. I think that's just it begins and ends right there. They are, at this point they're 8-3 with Mahomes as a quarterback in the playoffs, and the first two he played no part in the loss, but the one to the Bengals up 21-3 was entirely, and even to his own admission, was entirely on him. But also at the same point, the Chiefs hadn't won a playoff game in nearly 20 years before he showed up.
Wow.
Well, Alex Smith won one against the Texans back in 2015, but he's completely flipped the script. Well, him and Reed combined have completely flipped the script on what ESPN wrote a huge article on it this week, just about, honestly, if it's a good read, kind of where the Jaguars are now to when Reed took over the Chiefs and just flipping the script on what the team is. But I think with anything with the Chiefs, it begins and ends with him. If he goes out and does what Mahomes does, then the defense just has to do an okay job.
Yeah.
But if he struggles, if the Jaguars find a way to make him struggle, and then the Chiefs defense, which we know has been the knock through this whole run, they're a subpar group being dragged along to the offense's greatness. If the defense is the one being put on the spot, then it usually doesn't end well. You look at 18, the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers, and last year against the Bengals, the 3 times they have been knocked off in the last 4 years. It's usually because the defense was the one asked to answer the bell. But if Mahomes plays well, then there should be no reason to lose. But weird things have happened. 18, you in 2018, you couldn't play better than Mahomes played against the Patriots, and they still found a way to lose.
100%. Sometimes it's just a stupid offsides.
Or a stupid offsides and a bad coin flip.
Exactly.
But they've done away with that, so we're good with that.
Done away with it. Can Patrick Mahomes go to his 5th straight AFC Championship game? Can I get a final score prediction?
I think without a doubt, I think he can. I mean, he's only got to win one game. And personally, because of where I'm currently located, I hope the Bills win the other one because I'm gonna go to it in Atlanta. But even if the Bengals win, I think it's pretty sweet to host 5 straight. I do think they get there. I think it's going to be tighter than Vegas thinks, and I'm going to go.
8.5's a lot.
8.5's a lot in a regular season game.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. You saw like the last 5 weeks, the Chiefs played all like sub 500 teams. They kept giving them those 15, 16-point advantages. Like these are still NFL players, you know what I mean? Like it was those that works when Alabama's playing, the University of the Blind Deaf Children in South Carolina. You can put a double-digit score, but these guys have some pride. I would say 31-24, but I think it's 31-24, maybe 31-27, and Kansas City pulls it out.
Gotcha. This is the part of the show where I explain why the Jaguars are going to win this game.
I mean, look at you. Behind you.
Well, we're looking at a Jaguars team right now that has they peaked right about the right time to get hot, to make it to the playoffs. They played a perfect game in New York in the rain to win that game and escape on Thursday Night Football with a win. And then it kind of felt like a game where they weren't ready for the Titans in Week 18. That felt like a game where it was Trevor Lawrence didn't play winning football. The defense played winning football in that game, holding Josh Dobbs, getting the sack fumble. And then going back to last week, it felt like that again. The Jaguars didn't come out ready. The freak defensive line interception, the punt going off Chris Claybrooks' head. Weird things have been happening in Jacksonville. But then to see what happened in the second half, the final 31 minutes of that game, 4 touchdowns, like 6 incompletions. And it was absolutely the Trevor Lawrence show. Has Trevor Lawrence righted the wrongs that he's been dealing with? Is the team getting hot again? If they get hot like they got hot to finish the season, Trevor Lawrence is going to have a Lombardi at the end of the season. But that is the problem. Is he going to play the way he finished the season? Because he had a serious lull and he had a serious high. What Trevor Lawrence is going to show up to One Arrowhead Stadium. And I'm saying, it's definitely going to be at least a 35-31 game at least.
They're scoring points.
This game's going to be a fireworks show.
They're scoring points.
It's a weak Chiefs secondary against an untested and a very limited Jaguar secondary. There's no depth out there.
I'll tell you the one thing we didn't address. Pro Football Focus voted Defensive Player of the Year, Chris Jones.
Oh, now we're talking about Pro Football Focus again?
I'm just throwing it out there, putting it out there.
Yeah, it's because he has a big red Chief logo on the side of his helmet. Put him in teal and black, and let's see what kind of respect he gets.
Oh, you get 15.5 sacks from the nose tackle position. That's usually what you're gonna get.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was absolutely incredible having you on. I want to thank you again. Any final words?
Go Chiefs.
Hey, with that being said, everyone, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. Go Jaguars, beat the Chiefs, on to the AFC Championship game.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you! You making blood come from my damn mouth!